I'd like to welcome you to the Ways and Means Committee meeting today, Tuesday, September the 5th at about 4:03 p.m. Dan, will you call the order, please?
Lutz.
Here.
Durancek.
Here.
Krygier.
Yes.
Krygier.
Here.
Coonan.
Here.
Ryder.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
One present.
Thank you. In front of you have minutes from 8/1/17.
Motion approved is presented.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. At this time, we have public input. Those wishing to address the committee can step up to the podium and we will give you time to speak.
Keith Markstrom, 1383 North Jones Road, Essexville. I'm here in the capacity as the president of the Bay Veterans Foundation. I wanted to give the group and staff an update on our Michigan Gold Star Memorial Monument here at Battery Park. I think most of you have seen that the construction is underway. The concrete's been laid. Today they're digging and putting in foundation for lighting. That should go in another couple of weeks. We anticipate the monument to be here sometime mid-September. It's coming from just outside Louisville, Kentucky. I have to say that the reception that we received on this project has been overwhelming. What we need, though, is a little bit more cash. We're about 30,000 short. We have quite a few applications, letters of request, and grant applications out in the community. We're trying to reach across the state because this is the Michigan Memorial Monument. And for those who may not know, it's a tribute to the families of those who sacrificed their lives in service to our country from World War I through today's conflicts and wars. We've had some real upfront contributions from the architects, WTA Architects, Macmillan Associates, SME, Soil Compaction Studies, Himco Steel, who have all provided professional services at no charge. And Serena's Johnson, our contractor, has significantly cut their costs. It's almost just above what their expenses are. And Begik Nursery, Bay Landscaping have all made some major contributions to this project. I have passed out a small half sheet to most of you, a personal invitation to attend the dedication, which is scheduled for 11 o'clock on September 30th. That's a Saturday. We're working with the city, since this is a city park, to close a couple of the streets just for that purpose. City Market will be operating that day, so it's going to be congested. But we're anticipating between 200 and 300 people. We would like you to distribute this, the information from this as much as possible. I think we've had pretty good media coverage, but we're going to ramp up a little bit more in the next couple of weeks. So I would answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Keith?
Or not. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We thank you for your efforts there, Keith. Anyone else?
Oh, somebody saying that time. I did forget.
Welcome back, Keith.
Keith Marks from 1383 North. We are selling commemorative medallions that are in the shape of the monument, and the date of September 30th, the dedication date, is on this. We're selling these for $20 rather than try to do any sales here right now. I propose that I leave a little supply with Deanna and Deb with additional information on this. And all the money raised by this goes to the cost. This has been a volunteer-driven project. There are no staff paid for this. It's all voluntary time. So I would encourage you to pick up one of these. There's a limited edition. We only we only had 2,000 cast. So I think it's important that as many people in our community buy these as possible. And I'll get with you two ladies later. So, okay. I'm done now. Thank you.
Okay, Keith. Are you sure? Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on to petitions and communications. Under item A, we have Commissioners Krygier and Ryder, resolution on community mental health.
I'd like to move the resolution, and we have Chris Pinter from Bay Arneck Behavioral Health to address the board.
Okay. And support? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packet, there's a draft resolution that the authority board wanted us to forward to the commission for consideration, and that's on page 6. On page 7, there's some background information. I know I've given a few reports over the last 3 years to the commission, but I thought it would be best to refresh your memory given how much information you process weekly and monthly. So I just provided a little summary that Bay Arneck, the Mental Health Board Authority for Bay and Arneck counties, formerly served as a health plan for 6 regions in our service area. Back in 2012, we were asked to consolidate with 21 other counties and 12 other community mental health agencies. In doing that, we created a regional entity which was allowed under state law, which was called the Mid-State Health Network. And actually, the commission has an appointment to the substance abuse oversight for the PA2 money at that Mid-State Health Network. So you have a direct appointment to their advisory board, and then through your mental health authority, you have a founding member. One of the things that I pointed out back in 2012, which some of you I know will remember, is I was very concerned about the fact that Bay County had traditionally had pretty good Medicaid funding, and some of our closest neighbors had traditionally had very poor Medicaid funding. And just a regression to the mean, averaging out the new partners, meant we were looking at a significant loss in Medicaid revenue for Bay and Arneck counties. I'm pretty pleased to announce that over the last 5 years, we've been able to smooth most of those changes, both by changes we made in how we've provided services in Bay and Arneck counties, but quite honestly, the administration has supported raising the Medicaid rates for the historically lower counties, including the two of the 3 lowest in Michigan that got assigned to our region, Saginaw and Jackson-Hillsdale. So that's helped a lot. We've seen both with Medicaid expansion has brought more revenue in, the autism program being implemented has brought more revenue in, and that's allowed us, as I noted in number 5, we've maintained a pretty significant performance throughout this transition. In fact, in the first quarter of fiscal year 16, we're still the highest in Medicaid penetration of the 12 CMHs in our region. Our cost per case is the 4th lowest, and if you flip that over to Healthy Michigan, which is the Medicaid expansion, we're the 2nd highest in penetration, and we're 2nd lowest in cost per case. So the Mid-State organization is getting a good deal from Bay Arneck Community Mental Health, and I point that out to them every opportunity that I get. I also came back to the commission in February 2016 because the Department of Community Health had recommended transferring all the public mental health funding to private entities. And in fact, Bay County was the first county, because you had a special meeting already scheduled for that week, and it came out like the week before that. It was one of the first counties that objected to this change because of the fact that it contradicted the mental health code and essentially would sever our public our governmental immunity for providing services to the people that were most severe, which is our public service obligation. The department then went through a long process of eliciting stakeholder feedback from consumers and families, providers, hospitals, health plans, other community agencies, and the public feedback was overwhelmingly opposed to changing They recommended that public mental health issues like the opiate problem is best served by first responders who are accountable and have support from local communities and local elected officials versus transferring responsibility for emergencies occurring in local communities to entities with no accountability to those regions or those communities or those public entities. So we were real pleased that that was the result. The department released its final report in December of last year. In the meantime, the Health Plan Association, I'll be very blunt, lobbied heavily with key people in the legislature, said that this public stakeholder feedback had not taken their interest into account, that they had not had adequate voice in this, and that they really wanted to save the public a lot of money, and the best way to do that was to give all the money to them, and then they would save the rest of us money. And unfortunately, the administration, looking for, I believe, a reasonable path forward, believed that some pilot language around that might not be a bad thing if it's done in a meaningful and a thoughtful way. And I said unfortunately because I felt that with their extensive stakeholder process that they had spent over 9 months on, and include over 10,000 feedback from over 10,000 people on their website, I felt that that was a reasonable approach to getting feedback. But be it that as is may, the governor approved the appropriations bill for 2018, which has some language in there about pilots, Medicaid health plan-led pilots. And so I wanted to raise this issue with our board and then also with the commission. And that's what the purpose of the resolution is. There's a few things in the current law, in the Mental Health Code, Public Act 258 of 1974, which established the state and county partnership for public mental health services. There's a few things that these Medicaid health plan pilots have ignored throughout this 2-year dialogue. I believe the perspective is we can just transfer the money and that's the way it goes. The problem is when you look at the law, and I'm going to walk through the relevant portions of the resolution that we've submitted for your consideration. The very first thing is, under state law, the state is required to maintain an adequate and appropriate system of community mental health service programs and to shift responsibility for the direct delivery of public mental health services from the state to the community mental health service programs. Also in the law, the state is required to financially support, in accordance with Chapter 3 of the Mental Health Code, any community mental health service programs that have been established by due process by the county commissions. I would remind the commission, obviously, that we had a county mental health agency back starting in 1963. We were one of the first counties in Bay. But in 2001, in order to be the health plan for the larger region, the commissions had to consider creating an authority. So I used the date when the authority was created, which is in 2001. And respectively, the county commissions did create an authority to provide public mental health services. Under that, under MCL 33, 1206 and 1208, as an authority, we're required to provide a comprehensive array of services to people with the most severe forms of disabilities, mental illness, and serious emotional disturbances. We don't have any choice there. Once the county's made the decision to commit to creating an authority, that authority has to serve the most severe needs in those areas, period. Now, you can argue how much money and whether funding is sufficient, but the most severe people in those counties have to be served by that mental health program that the county created, period. The law is black and white on that. We're also required under law to have a governing board of directors that are representative both of our community and people and families that receive our services. That's in the law. So when we take those things out and then we look at what the health plans have proposed for the models that they would like, there's a few things that I think are red flags for the counties and for the communities. The first thing is that by transferring responsibility for public mental health services to a private interest with no accountability to the elected representatives of those communities, I would argue that that contradicts very clearly the Mental Health Code, especially 1116, which says that they'll transfer responsibility from the state to community mental health programs established by the commissions. So taking 98% of the funding from those entities and giving it to a private interest, to me would, maybe if it was only 20% of the funding, you could argue, but I think most reasonable people would say 98% of the money going somewhere means you're done. Nobody could survive under that. So even under the best of circumstances. So that's the first concern I have. And as I mentioned, this public funding, which is now ultimately accountable to the commissions who create the authority and appoint the authority board members, that would no longer be a case. So all the public services in Bay County for mental health that the sheriff has to depend on and that other people have to depend on would be controlled by private interests not located in Bay County. Insurance, commercial plans, no accountability to this commission. So if there were any problems or there were concerns with the sheriff's response time with behavioral health or concerns about the opiate epidemic, you could call somebody in Austin, Texas, or Toledo, or somewhere else and ask them that you're really concerned about what's happening in Bay County and what they can do about it. And since you'd have no appointing or governing authority over them, I would argue that your political and legal obligations would be limited in that type of arrangement. Another reason why I'm concerned about it. The other part, which I hinted at earlier, is something that I think has not been considered in the dialogue. Right now, public mental health services provided by county mental health agencies are considered a governmental function. So because we're a governmental agency, we have a certain degree of tort immunity when we serve the most disabled and most mentally ill and most challenging individuals in our community. If I'm a private provider with no protection around governmental immunity, then my whole liability interests change. And the best example I can give you is right now the sheriff department responds to emergencies, right? They have governmental immunity to a certain degree because of their public responsibilities. They have to respond to 911 calls, they have to respond to community emergencies. What would happen in responding to those calls if they could be sued? The person's car got scratched when you pulled them over and they're suing you now. And since your funds are now controlled by a private interest, as the sheriff department, you no longer have governmental immunity. Would that change how the sheriff department relates to the public? Would they be inclined to serve people that maybe were less risky or less problematic? And then could the community survive in a situation where its first responders have to make financial risk decisions about, which they do every day at risk of their deputies, but in general, they respond to public emergencies with no questions. The type of response is what they consider in a risk assessment. Under a private system, you could just say, well, give me the $1 million up front and maybe we'll respond. That's the most troubling part of this, is that every governmental agency that's involved in this would lose its shield of governmental immunity, which right now I have because I'm expected to serve the most disabled people in my community. When I can make the decision that I no longer have to do that, I don't have to serve the most disabled. We'll leave them for someone else. I don't know who the other else will be. The market would say somebody would emerge, right, for the right dollar amount, right? Somebody would emerge and want to do it. So I am concerned that we've raised that issue with the department. Of course, they say, well, that's maybe not that big of a deal. We believe that it is. In any local government, providing public obligations has to have some degree of tort immunity. I don't mean for abuse and neglect. I don't mean for gross negligence. But there's a certain expectation if you serve the most disabled that you're providing a public service and that there's some shield of protection as long as you're acting in the best interest of the community and the persons you're serving. I think that gets missed. That's why we're not a for-profit system, because we have a public obligation that nobody else has. And I think you have to be careful not to waive that, no matter how much it may seem like it may be worth it. And then last, and I think this is probably the most insidious component of this, by transferring all the funding to a private interest, the code requirement that the funding ultimately has to be accountable and the service has to be accountable to the commission and elected representatives and the people receiving the services is gone. Because then it just, if you have oversight but you don't have any financial governance over the operations, you don't have governance over it. Ultimately, the resources will determine what services get provided and where. So to sever that piece, even if it sounds good on paper, I believe essentially would be the start toward moving away from having any kind of, if I was advising the commission under that, I'd say you may want to evaluate what's worth having a mental health authority. If they're taking 98% of the money, why do you want to be stuck with the liability for services that you can't afford to pay for? So we wanted the commission to have something to think about. Now, backing up from the ledge a little bit on my intensity around this, is the administration to this point, I think, has been proactive about this. They have said that they will look for willing partners They're not going to force anybody to do it. They're going to try to do it in a way that respects the law, that respects the existing service system, that tries to build on the system that's been built over 50 years. And I take them at their word on that. I believe that they're being straight about that. I've also advised my contacts at the state that, you know, my commissions probably would have some concerns about being asked to be a part of this, especially when I talk to them about the financial and liability impact on our services. They'd probably have some questions about this and wonder if this was really the best way to improve services. So I've kind of laid the groundwork that we might want to ask some questions or just advise them as they design these pilots. Just keep in mind what's currently in the law. And if you want to change the law, then that's a different legislative discussion. They can talk about changing the law. The law can be changed. But don't try to go around the law by just moving the money around. And that's probably not an old issue between the state and the counties. I realize that. But so I just wanted you to think about this, whether this would be something you would consider. Certainly you can revise it, change it, however you want. But I tried to emphasize the key points that I would make to our state officials and that I have made about why it's important to build on these new systems in the context of what's currently in the law, which is a state and county partnership for public services to the most disabled.
Commissioner Regan.
Michigan Association of Counties has been fighting this for about the last 5 years, so they're on board along with the
Absolutely.
Mental Health Board. You know, we've been opposed to it, so we'll continue. I'm sure it's in the platform, and we're behind you. We're concerned about the pilot studies also, so whatever we can do to help, let us know.
Thank you.
Commissioner Coonan.
Chris, did you say that the governor already made some changes? Would that be taking 98% of the funds away and allocating that out to the private sector? Is that already been done?
No, the way they've approached, that was the original plan 2 years ago. But I think the feedback from the communities and the stakeholders said, we don't want that kind of system. The way they've approached this up till now has been, we'd like to foster partnerships between the health plans and the public system, which I don't think is an unreasonable dialogue. And in fact, Kent County came forward and said, our CMH, and it's in the appropriation bill specifically, they will work with their health plans to come up with a different integrated model. Great. The problem is the next part of the appropriation language is, oh, and we're also going to just give all the money to the health plans in some other counties and see how it works out. That's not a partnership. And so I think the administration has been careful about not wanting to cause too many problems with the counties and with the persons depending on services. But I think they're interested in trying different things, which I'm okay with. I just want them to do it within the context of what the law says.
Anyone else? Well, thank you for, Chris, for enlightening us on all this. I know it's a complicated issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Without any further ado, I believe we have a motion and support. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we have under item B, we have Court Administrator Amendment OHS Grant, which provides additional funding.
So moved. Support?
We have a motion and support. A discussion?
Mr. Chair, I would ask that the board also add any necessary budget adjustments. This is a year-end, September 30th, and we're in September. So to accept this additional funds, if we could do the necessary budget adjustments would be helpful.
That would be an increase in revenue, right?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
All right. So
Support.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next we have the Bay County Sheriff Under C1, we have a contract with Otis Elevator Company for elevator repairs.
So moved.
A motion and support. I was over to the sheriff's department a little while, a few days ago, and rode one of the other elevators that's waiting to get fixed. What a joyful ride. So we need to get this elevator fixed really quick, because the other one's about ready to quit working too. So I was all happy to see this one come forward. Anyone else? Commissioner Krygier.
Yeah, Kristen, how old are both out? They're both the same age. I think they were part of the original building, correct?
This building?
No, with
Or
the
the
sheriff.
I believe that they're part of the original bill, but I'd have to get back to you on that.
Mr. Chair.
1976.
Yeah, I believe they're part of the original bill. There's 3 elevators, right?
Okay. Thank you. So obviously they're in need of some attention.
So the Westinghouse elevator is original from 1978. The other 2 are from 1990, the upgrade. They rebuilt on the end of the building when they did the upgrade for the visitation. So those 2 elevators, the one we rode the other day, that is the upgraded elevator. Those are the newer ones.
That's the
The
newer
one
one.
that's down is from 1978. That's the old one. That's the Westinghouse. That's the one we're trying to get repaired. That's the primary one. And we have 2 other ones, one in the secure area, one outside the secure area for the visitors currently. And those were from the addition in the 90s.
Commissioner Coonan.
Now, Troy, are you going to, in next year's budget, have dollars in that, requesting money to upgrade the other ones so that it's not something that we have, if we know that you got a problem, are we going to do it through the budget so we don't have to come back here and do budget adjustments?
Yes, sir. The problem with the other elevator that we rode, the eastern elevator, the parts already been provided. We have an issue right now. We have a contract with Schindler Elevator. They also know that we're looking at going to Otis Elevator for the future for the other 7, for all 7 elevators. So it's kind of a little push and pull going on there. They provided the parts so far, but we maybe have to have Otis put it in. So the part's been paid for. It's been under warranty. Now we're at the point of, do we want them to try to replace it while our primary elevator is down? The way the business with them lately is they'll probably drag their feet a little bit on it, and then we'll have both elevators down the secure area. So we do have the parts already been paid for. It's been covered by warranty. We're just waiting to put the part in until our primary elevator is up, because then we won't have any elevators in the secure area functioning if we have them both down. The other one would be in the unsecure area. So to answer your question, it's been paid for. The labor will be something we'll maybe in dispute. It's about $1,200 to put it in. Otis may give us a better deal on it. We've not asked them about that. Right now it's under Schindler's contract to do the labor on there. But we don't want to have them do the labor until the primary is fixed, in case they take their time and maybe order the wrong part.
That's for the second elevator.
Yes, sir.
This is for the one that's already down.
The $30,400 is the ones that are done, and that includes the $1,500 casing estimate they came up with the drilling they did. It's already included in that price, not additional, so it's already part of that price, which is considerably less than the other 2 companies. I think one was $55,755 and one was $87,868, I believe. So they're considerably different in price. And Otis has been very good to us. They've done several repairs on the elevator earlier. So.
Anyone else? Motion and support? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next, we have under C2, OHSP Traffic Enforcement Grant. What is your pleasure?
So
Support.
I have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Next, under C3, we have Road Patrol Service Agreement with Pinconning Township.
motion approved. Support.
A motion and support. Any discussion? Commissioner Begay.
I just had a question. It said a new contract and a continuance of services. So were we doing Pinconning, and why is it a new contract, and why is it a continuance of services? Just wonder if we had, what we currently are doing the township.
Oh, we got all 3 sheriffs. We got the sheriff, the under sheriff, and
You were asking what?
Yeah, it says it's a new contract, and then it also says a continuance of services. So had we been doing the township before, or not?
No, they were part of our pool contract with the 60/40, which they were in, and we're looking to adjust that, because they're looking to do 2 full-time in the township now. So they're looking to enter into a contract for 2 new deputies in the contract for the
Thank you.
township.
Troy, this is above and beyond, just so people out there, this is above and beyond the normal road patrol that the sheriff's department does, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it'll be 2
2 officers for there.
Yep, that will be in Pinconning Township for their work weeks. Yep.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Next, under Bay County Prosecutor, Amendment 1 to the Title 4E, or 5E, 6, 4E grantee agreement.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and support, and this was an increase also in the grant amount. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Under E, we have Emergency Management Coordinator, Section 19, Disaster Relief Funding, application. What is your pleasure?
Support?
We have motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Under F1, we have the RFP for the golf carts.
Support.
We have motion and support, Commissioner Coonan.
Thank you, sir. Kristen, maybe at some time, Bob had some questions, and I guess I have some questions on just how well the golf course is doing, and how we could get that information, maybe the ice arena as well. I know we did get 20 golf carts last year, and we lent that money. Has any of that money been returned back to the general fund with those golf carts? And if you don't know that, maybe we can see how we're doing as we're getting near the end of the golf season, how we're doing financially, and if we're going to have the ability to pay those 20 back, which would be great, so that, I think we need to, we're in the business, we need to recapitalize. And we had this ongoing discussion for several years. And with the background information in here, if we are able to pay back the county, which is great. I like the fact that we're not going to sell 20 carts back or trade 20 in, that we're going to keep them there so we don't have to go out and lease carts throughout the whole season. I like that idea. But at some point in time, I would love to see a spreadsheet on just what our revenues and expenditures are, what type of year we're having, and hopefully the county will be able to cover its O&M on that golf course as well as on the ice arena. Be nice to see that information.
And at the golf course, I can get your report right away with our new software system on what our revenues are. And monthly, the finance department provides us a balance sheet from where we are at that point in time. And so I can get all of that information to you and some Civic arena information as well. Right now, as of when I pulled the data for this agenda, 80% of our golfers are riding. So we are renting those carts out very, very, very frequently. So
That's always been the case, though.
it has always been the case, but with our new software system, it's very
Question
easy.
is the golf course able to generate enough revenue to pay back the county for purchasing the golf carts?
Yes, we currently do not owe the general fund any money
Really?
right now.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Commissioner Krygier.
So when it comes to the RFP, we bought 20 carts last year, correct?
Correct.
So are we thinking that we might be able to come up with a better deal in 2018 if we choose to purchase additional carts?
Let me back up for 1 second. When I say we bought it last year, I mean we bought it at the very beginning, before the season starts in 2017. This is a pre-plan for purchasing from 2018, so we can get them before the season starts. And I think we'll probably get the exact same deal minus the trading cost, since we won't be trading them in.
So we're not, with this resolution, we're not agreeing to purchasing it.
Correct.
We're just looking to see what the cost would be for 2018.
Right, this only authorizes us to go out for the RFP. We have to come back in January of 2018, after the 18 budget is approved, to ask for permission to award the grant. So if the money's not in the budget, or if you decide that we're not going to be purchasing new cards, that would all be figured out before we actually award.
I thought at one time we had, or was trying to put together a schedule that said, these are the carts we have, this is what we're selling, this is what we're purchasing. And in the future years, we were going to rotate 10, 15 carts at a time.
Correct. So we have a 5-year plan to replace our fleet of 70.
Okay.
So currently we have 50, 52 carts. We rent 15 of them. A couple of them are used for our maintenance staff out there, so we need to get to 70. Because we put some significant dollars into making, repairing the seats and things like that, we feel that we can get another year out of the carts that are old. And so that's why we wouldn't be turning them in this year. With the 5-year plan, come year 3, 4, and 5, we would be trading in a smaller amount. Like next year, we may only buy 10 carts.
So the carts that we're giving a new look to, those would allow us not to have to lease additional carts for tournaments or whatever.
The only time we would be leasing, because right now we lease 15 carts every month that we're open. So the only time in the future, if we purchase 20 new carts for the 2018 season, the only time we would have to lease is for our largest tournament our largest outing that has 144 people that play, and our county men's tournament. So just those 2 times. And for 2 days, the rental fee is minimal, but it's important for those 2 events.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Ryder, any question?
Kristen, do we have any idea what the shelf life is on a golf cart? We must have some kind of idea, because the ones we've replaced already.
Correct. So our warranty is going to be 4 years. Most golf courses would turn theirs over within that time. We do not. We keep ours. And our oldest one that we traded in last year that was still chugging along was from the late 90s. So 20 years. I mean, we also keep them up very, very well, and we are constantly putting, parts on it and things of that nature, but we keep ours for a long time.
And you said we have a fleet of 70 today?
When you add the rentals in, we need 70, yes, to run our operation.
Thank you.
Mr. Barsha?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner Coonan, for those comments and questions. I want to thank Kristen and Dan Neering for the great job they've been doing at the Bay County Golf Course. I know we all received a lot of great comments from the public who uses the golf course. I think when, last January, when I met with Tim Watkins, or February, I think of the 100 carts that we owned, that 50 of them were scrap, correct?
Well, we had about 50
That didn't run.
carts, and I would say half of those were very, very, very old.
Yeah. So the 20 new golf carts have been very well appreciated by the golf leagues. And it seems that I think the newest golf carts we had were about 18 years old. And Commissioner Ryder, we were told by manufacturers reps that traditionally a golf cart's lifespan is about 7 years, because they're continually used and they're over rough terrain and stuff. So the new ones are greatly appreciated, and if we could continue on the path of, replacing some of the oldest models. And I believe grounds and maintenance did help refurbish some of the seats and some of the other improvements that were made to the existing golf course to help extend their life, right? So hopefully the money that will be generated in profit can be reinvested in the future in the golf course to keep everything current, keep it new.
Anyone else? I know from a business standpoint, anytime you can replace older equipment with newer stuff, you have less downtime and, less effort that has to go into it, and therefore spend less money in the long run. So I know that this commission's been trying to work towards this for several years, and I think we're well on our way. With that, we have a motion and support, correct? Okay. Without any more discussion on that, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Under F2, we have the brick sealant at the Civic Arena. They're seeking $4,700 in appropriations to seal the north wall.
So, support.
We have motion and support, Commissioner Coonan.
Reading some of that information, do we need somebody with some expertise to do an evaluation on that building? Whether or not the sealant was done, or if it sounds as though it is as involved as it is as I read it. Is this just the tip of the iceberg?
We did bring someone in that specializes in that kind of material, and that was the fact that it wasn't sealed was what he had told us, and that the driving rains are getting in through the brick, causing the discoloration. So we did bring someone in, and putting the sealant on it's like a thicker paint, so the application process isn't difficult. It was difficult figuring out why we were getting the water, but now that we know, or we have a pretty good idea, we want to ensure that when we do the north wall, give it some time to make sure this is the reason, before we spend any.
I understand all that. The question I have is, why wasn't it sealed? Why wasn't it sealed when it was built? Was it in the specs?
I believe it was. The building's 20 years old, and it's my understanding that we had a company that was kind of overseeing that. I'm not 100% sure on the details, but I don't know why it was sealed. I don't believe it was. I can't 100% say that that's the fact or that's the case, but that's what our person that we brought in had thought, and so I don't know why it wasn't sealed.
Anything else, Mr. Coon? Mr. Krygier?
So we're looking at just one wall when actually it sounds like maybe the majority of the building wasn't properly sealed. So are we going to experiment just with the north wall to see if that resolves it, and then look at the other existing walls that do the same thing? Granted, 20 years, things are bound to leak.
Right, but this is, so to answer your question, yes, we're going to be doing the north wall, making sure it works, and then eventually we're going to have to do the remaining 3 walls. The north wall is the worst wall. And when we talk about the amount of water in there, it's significant. Like John drilled a hole in the bottom and the water comes.
Washed out.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Hare?
Chris, is that, they have to drill anymore? Because if there's water, then they have to drill like in certain spots in every wall, correct? And not
Correct.
make sure all the water gets out before you seal it.
And then we're going to have to plug those holes back up.
Okay. That's all I know. Thank you.
Right, each block would have to be, the core of each block would have to be, the bottom block would have to be drilled, drained, and then resealed, and then this material would have to be put on to make it work. But this type of block, that the split face that was used on the building, are notorious for absorbing water because of the openness of the face. It's not like a regular block that you see on a foundation normally. the smooth ones. With that smooth service, it doesn't allow the penetration, although you get it into those houses too, over time. So I think it's well worth it. Anyone else? All those in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next, under F3, we have Dude Solutions software for the buildings and grounds. I have a motion and support. Commissioner Harris.
Okay, Kristen. So, I know that you probably looked at some other places that do this, and I know we had a little talk about it, but maybe you can tell what happens when, I know we talk about planning for the future, which is, I know that's what you're doing here, and what's some of the downside if you don't plan for the future? When we talked about, I think it's Muskegon County or county.
Right, I had talked to a county on the west side of the state that basically the reason they were doing their facility condition assessment is because they had a massive failure in their control system in their jail and had to spend just shy of $900,000 to replace it immediately. And so essentially what a facility condition assessment will do is it'll bring professionals in to evaluate all of our major equipment. Everything in the building, all the rooftop units, the fire systems, the windows, everything in the building, right? And they give you a spreadsheet and they evaluate, this unit is in good condition, this unit's in fair condition, poor condition, right? And basically by their evaluation, they're able to tell you, give or take, how many years you have left on these major units. So we'll get a 20-year forecast that will essentially say, in 2020, you can expect to replace this many units and have this much expenditure, because this is how much it costs to replace those things. And basically, it's a budgeting tool to tell you, in the next 20 years, these are the major capital improvements that you're going to have. One of the major benefits to this is that we'll be able to see out that far. We'll have an evaluation by professionals on how well our equipment, how good our equipment is, and it's also adjustable. So if we were to replace a motor in something and it's only supposed to last 2 more years, but we replace a major part of it, then obviously that bumps that out. So there is a lot of benefits, not only to the work order software, but to the facility condition assessment and the 20-year capital forecast.
So when you said like you replace a motor, do they come in and reevaluate? Do you only do the first initial evaluation, and the rest, like you enter something in the program that will replace them, like you said, like a motor in this unit, and then it automatically updates?
Correct. So they'll come in and do a one-time initial assessment, and then the work order feature, every time we do work on a unit, our maintenance department needs to do something, it'll all be put into the system. And so we'll be able to go into the system and say, okay, this boiler, it had this work done, this preventative maintenance, all these kind of things done on it, and then we can then evaluate, is this something we should bump out? Is this something we should replace? Is this a lemon? And even though maybe it's not supposed to be replaced for 10 years, but we have a documentation that we're doing all this work on this boiler or whatever, it'll be able to show us all of these incredible reporting features. So I think it's going to be an incredible budgeting and informational tool for us, on top of the fact that it'll handle all of our work orders for our maintenance department.
And my last question is there someone else that you talk to that has this system, that uses this system?
Yes, I've talked to a couple people that use this system. Our medical care facility uses it. They like it very much. John and I have been trying to get out to see it in person and talk to their staff. We haven't been able to do that yet, just for scheduling reasons, but they use it. There's a number of counties use it, and I think it's very telling that a couple of the counties that I've talked to, they instituted the work order system part of this before they did the facility condition assessment, and now they're going back and doing the facility condition assessment because they didn't have all the information they needed to make the output what they wanted. You know, to make the output valuable. So,
Commissioner Coonan.
So that $40,000 is a two-part, it's having somebody with some expertise come in and do a synopsis of the whole county. And then you could log that stuff on a spreadsheet and know that you're gonna have a problem, know what you got. Maybe we don't do anything like that right now. We don't have a spreadsheet of the county, all the buildings and the HVAC and all this, when this has been done.
we have a couple paper files, we have institutional knowledge,
We
like I
don't
said,
have-
but
we
we
don't
don't
have
have a system.
Would this work with Munis? Because does Munis have a module that, did we check with IT and Munis, and because Munis is kind of a robust program. To me, it sounds like you got some guy with some expertise who's gonna do an inventory.
Right.
And then he's
Yeah.
gonna tell you what you got, and that's gonna put it in the database. Could we hire somebody to do an inventory, and is it something that Munis, have we went out for bid on Munis to see if they have something that would have this capability of managing what we're trying to manage?
We currently have Munis fleet and facilities, and it doesn't work for us. It's not the program that we're looking for. So, to answer your question, the facility condition assessment and the people are coming from the software. Dude Solutions is actually bringing them on. So I don't know the vendor, but
Well, here's what I'm saying. You got two parts. You got somebody coming and doing an assessment, and then creating a database so you know what you got. It's not rocket science.
and it's more than just a database. It's preventative maintenance schedules and things of that nature. The main thing is that we, yes.
So, we're going out for bids, or is IT on board with this?
We haven't went out for bid because it's Dude Solutions is priced through the National Joint Purchasing Association, so we meet our purchasing requirements. I do know that Julie has tried to get a hold of Munis in order to see what their upgraded fleet and facilities is, but as of right now, we don't have the upgraded one.
Bob.
We have a board resolution from several years ago that all software has to be reviewed by IT. We've had a meeting, and IT has set up a demonstration on Munis facility and program. So we'll see if they have an upgrade. This one sounds real nice, but we don't know if Munis has a project or not. Because we'd like to have less different vendors if we could, if it all fits in our financial system. Like we found a recreation program that probably would fit, that's on Munis, that costs about half of what, an outside one. But I think it's the 13th of October.
Correct.
So what are we doing here then? If you're going to have somebody come in from Munis, or?
Well, this still has to go to the board. So
Yeah, that's next week.
if you wanted to wait until we reviewed the program from Munis's update. Matter of fact, I think this month you're updating Munis.
September 11th.
11.3.
Yes.
We have a slight idea if they have a good program for buildings and grounds. But we are looking at it.
Well, I don't have a problem referring it until we see what Munis has got. To me, it looks like you bringing somebody in and he's going to do an assessment and tell you what you got and what to expect in the future. I don't think this software package is basically, that's what I see. I mean, right now, the way we're doing it is we're coming in, we're doing budget adjustments on elevators and roofs and things like that.
Yeah.
We're still gonna, and who's to say that if you've got something that's functioning well after 15 years, it's time to change it? Are we gonna do that?
No, we wouldn't do, it's a budgeting, the forecast is a budgeting tool, not
I
a.
understand that, I understand. I don't know, I think we should, I don't have a problem waiting until, if we got Munis coming in, and they have a module that would replicate this. I don't have a problem waiting for that.
Commissioner Krygier.
So in theory, we're trying to be more proactive with the stuff that we have. So maybe if we find out and we get into some type of a program, an individual, somebody's gonna still have to come in, and let's take the community center, and they look at the equipment that we have for the pool, and they look at the age and the condition of the circulating pumps, and they say in January, you know, this thing isn't gonna make it a season, we can proactively go out and get it repaired so that we're not down in July or August. So if that's the avenue that we're trying to go and being proactive and
Proactive
putting
instead of
programs
reactive.
together, then I would certainly support it. But to just go out right now and spend $40,000, I'd rather wait until we get another look at Munis and make sure that the dollars are gonna be well spent. Because I love being proactive and catching things before they break, because usually it costs us more than. Thank you.
Commissioner Coonan.
Maybe we should just have somebody come in and do an assessment on what we have throughout the county and see if it's something, I don't know how we do it today. If we do it based on,
If it breaks, we fix it.
so, maybe there's a need to have that particular function bid out.
We'd have time, but I think the most important part is getting a company to come in and do this, but that takes 22 weeks. So we have plenty of time to see if Munis will meet their needs or not.
So what are you suggesting?
Right?
Do we want to move this to next week?
Well, maybe we want to move it until we get the presentation from Munis.
Which is the 11th or after?
The 13th.
13th?
Well,
I'd make that motion that we hold off until
support.
we get more information from Eunice.
We have a motion to refer and support. Now, one of the other things I wanted to bring up, because Kristen and I talked a little bit at length about this, and this is going to cover about somewhere around 90% of all the buildings and facilities within the county. It's not just this building. It's taken in the ice arena, the golf, well, not the golf course. That was one of the places it wasn't. But the 3 buildings at the golf course it will, but not all the equipment that's out there. That's going to be done later. But it'll bring in, all the budgeting information that we're going to need as a board down the road, that in year 2035, we got to have this much money set away because this is what our expenditures are going to be. So it's kind of a multi-year capital improvements plan, basically, for the county. And I think, a lot of times, like Ernie was saying, and Kim, we fix things by the seat of our pants sometimes because we do it because it broke. And so this isn't going to be a sure side thing, but it's going to give us a lot better. And I agree, if Munis can track it the same way, that'd be great. But I don't think Munis is going to come up with the assessment. And I think that's what the other commissioners were talking about, getting the assessment done. But in this particular case, the software person is bringing in the assessor. So unless we want to go out and get a different assessor to do that, then we might end up with this software. That's all I'm saying. So we have a motion to refer and support. Refer to let's see, our board meeting's next Tuesday.
The board meeting's the 12th, and you have another one.
Why don't we we do it for the budget? The budget's coming up for 2018. I mean, it's nothing that needs to be done right now. These should be budget items, I believe.
So for the budget problem?
I think that's what you're asking,
Yeah.
refer to the budget process and add this into next year's budget as a line item.
That gives us time to evaluate whether it's Munis that has something suitable.
Okay. To the budget process. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is a budget adjustment for the Civic Arena Endowment Fund. This is seeking $20,000 to purchase a new ice skate
So
sharpener.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Did you want to speak to it, Commissioner Harris? No? Oh, okay. Seeing no request, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Under G, we have Administrative Services Director, BCTV sponsorships. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Administrative Services Director and Animal Control Manager software for Bay County Animal Control.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Commissioner Krygier.
Yep. Do we have an idea on what kind of money we're looking at?
We do, not to exceed $7,000, and that includes exporting our old data. We presently have what's called the ARMS system, and it's 20 years old, but some of those records need to be, preserved. And this price includes exporting the data and training. We even put in a staff training, $500 for staff training and the software. And there is a yearly maintenance fee that's very minimal. But this has been evaluated by Information Systems, and they actually accompanied our staff on a tour of the facility that operates the system and evaluated other systems as well. And it's felt that this is the most beneficial, user-friendly.
And I'm assuming our IT people have been involved in all of this?
That's right, they have been, and they will participate in the training so that they're able to assist any issues that we have. The Animal Control Department is, their computers are outdated, and there have been some issues lately with, because they're so old, but they are slated to be repaired just through the normal.
So Mr. Halstead will be able to get rid of his pencil with an eraser?
That is correct.
Very good. Thank you.
He told me he didn't have an eraser because he didn't make any mistakes.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Anyone else? And these are all budgeted funds. You just want to move them around within the animal control budget. We're not appropriating any additional dollars to the town. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Same sign. Motion carried. Okay, next we got Animal Control Manager. He's back again. Agreement with All About Animal Rescues.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Mike, would you like to speak to that issue?
Certainly. All About Animals, this agreement into which we hope to enter, is all about them charging a lower fee than veterinarians for sterilization and rabies vaccinations. The charge would be $40 for a cat, $80 for a dog, in lieu of the normal fee charged by a veterinarian. Money is for the Paws in the Park event, which we're asking yet another resolution, we're going to offer free cats, 50 free cats, sterilized by All About Animals. Now, the cost incurred in sterilizing those cats, the monies for that will come from breach contract monies, of which there are $32,000 that remain in breach contract monies for sterilization. And so we'll be doing that for Paws in the Park. And as I say, the cats will be offered for free sterilization and vaccination. Now, when we get back to All About Animals, when we involve the public in using All About Animals for sterilization and rabies vaccination, their adoption fees will increase over the $27 for the adoption to include the $40 for a cat and or $80 for a dog. So we hope to empty the shelter of 50 cats during Paws in the Park through All About Animals.
Commissioner Krygier.
So this All About Animal Rescue, are they a nonprofit organization, like a 501c3 or?
Yes, yes they are. Right now their offices are in Warren. They hope to open an office in Flint. And they're able to transport 50 animals at a time. They pick them up one day, deliver them back the next day, sterilized and rabies vaccinated. So we think it's going to improve the performance of the animal control shelter and the adoption rate, of course.
So the service they provide is actually done back in Warren?
Yes.
And then they.
And it's a 24-hour turnover. Pick them up one day, bring them back the next, believe it or not. They pick them up at 6:30 in the morning, deliver them back at 6:30 the next morning.
Okay, quite an operation, thank you.
Thank you.
Quite fast operating. Yes.
I just wanted to add to what Mike said. We actually had All About Animals take part in one of our events previously. It was the previous Paws in the Park, wasn't it, Mike?
Empty the shelter. Empty the shelter event.
So we did benefit from a test run, if you will, with them. And it was very successful. They were, quite amazing at what they do. They arrived at like 6:30 in the morning, picked up the animals and brought them back the next day. They're highly regarded
with the Michigan Humane Society and virtually any other animal interest groups.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Under I-2, which is, we were just talking about that, that's the Paws in the Park event.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Under J, we have the Deputy Equalization Director, the L4029, 2017 tax request.
So moved. Support.
We have a motion and support, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Under K, we have the Director of Environmental Affairs and Community Development, information updates.
Motion to receive?
Support. We have a motion and support. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Same sign. Did you have any updates? No. Other than what we got? I just want to mention with that though, we had very good opportunity to see the Phragmites being sprayed the other day. They were working out in Hampton Township. I went out, met with one crew, and it seemed like they were pretty well equipped with the equipment that they had out there. I just asked them if that 2-track actually floated because they were going out in the water.
It was pretty heavy.
Yeah, it did. It looked like it might just keep right on going, a little tank. So that was done. So, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign. Motion carried. Under L, the Health Director, Amendment 4 to the CPBG agreement.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. L2 is the application for Children's Special Health Care Services.
So moved.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Under M, we have the Personnel Director. M1 is the RFP for excess workers' compensation policy.
So moved.
Support the motion. Do we have support? Did you get support? Oh, okay. They talk so fast over there. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Under M2, we have the RFP for the Workers' Compensation Administrator.
So moved.
We have a motion and support.
Is that a little slow for you?
Slowed it down, so.
Thank you.
Seeing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Under M3, we have the Medicare Advantage Plan Renewal.
So moved. Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Under M4, we have tuition reimbursement of Jennifer Davenport, Noreen Weiler, Evan Griffin, Leah Ford.
Support. Motion to receive.
Okay. Support. And support. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Under N, we have payables, general, Center Ridge Arms.
So support.
We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Finance officer, under O1, budget adjustments.
So moved. Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Under O2, analysis of general equity.
Move to receive.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Under O3, we have Executive Directive 2007-11.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Under O4, we have the Housing Rehab Grant Extension.
So moved. Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Under referrals, we don't have any, I don't believe. Unfinished business, we don't have anything. And Commissioner Tom Ryder wanted to speak to some new business.
We'll take care of it on our full board meeting.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? None? Closed session? We don't have an attorney, so. Miscellaneous? We don't have any?
Motion to adjourn is always a
Support. All in favor? Aye.
I'd like to call this special meeting of the Bay County Board of Commissioners to order. Could you please take the roll?
Durancheck.
Here.
Krygier.
Yes.
Higgett.
Here.
Coonan.
Here.
Ryder.
Here.
Lutz.
Here.
And Herrick.
Here.
All members present, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Please stand for the invocation.
Almighty and eternal God, governor of all things in heaven and on earth, we ask that you will bless this county commission this day. We ask that you will lead and direct the board to work for this county, and that you grant them the knowledge and understanding of the needs for this community. In your holy name we ask this. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, if there's any citizen who'd like to come forward and speak before the board, please step up to the microphone. Seeing no one, we'll move on to items for consideration from Commissioner Ryder and Coonan, Labor Day 2017.
I'll move that resolution forward and ask the clerk to read it, please. Support.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution 2017-173 by Commissioners Coonan and Ryder. Whereas on June 28, 1894, Congress adopted a bill making Labor Day a legal holiday, which stated that the first Monday of September in each year, being the day celebrated and known as Labor's Holiday, is hereby made a legal public holiday. And whereas the labor of our people is essential to drive and improve local, state, and national economies, and that the citizens of our community make significant sacrifices in their lives in order to partake in their works of labor. Whereas the organization of labor and the activities of the labor movement have resulted in significant improvements in the working conditions of all American workers through their work to establish 8-hour workdays, 40-hour work weeks, overtime pay, minimum wages, unemployment insurance, workers' compensation, breaks during the workday, including lunch, child labor laws, wrongful termination law, and countless other workplace improvements. And whereas unions and the labor movement continue to work to protect the above-mentioned rights of workers and fight ongoing threats to working people, including proposals that would weaken whistleblower protection laws, undermine the Family Medical Leave Act and pregnancy and parental leave laws, limit access to collective bargaining rights, stop the expansion and enforcement of the Equal Pay Acts, and eliminate the ability of workers to have a secure retirement through pensions. And whereas these protections and rights have had a significant impact on the emergence of a middle-class lifestyle and retirement for working people in our community and across the nation. Whereas our local unions work to ensure job opportunities and training for people of the region, fight the outsourcing of our local jobs and insourcing of non-local labor, and act as watchdogs ensuring safe workplaces for workers in our community. And whereas local unions make significant investments in our community through donations of both time and labor to help nonprofit organizations and struggling families in our community. Whereas every citizen deserves to be recognized for the labor they perform and the impact that work has had on their lives, the lives of their families, and everyone in our community. Whereas the Bay County Board of Commissioners wishes to pay tribute to all workers and unions, past and present, and honor their role in building Bay County from its founding in 1857 to the present. Therefore, be it resolved that the Bay County Board of Commissioners retroactively declare September 4, 2017 as Labor Day in Bay County. Signed, Kim Coonan and Tom Ryder, Commissioners.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Commissioner Coonan.
Well, being that we did bring this up, I think that, we should acknowledge the workers of the past that created the middle class, primarily organized labor, and the workers of today who have not benefited from having a voice in the workplace. I just read an article where I think between public sector and private sector, union density is 10.7%. In the robust years of the 50s and 60s, it was like 40 or 50%, 60%. And that was where the middle class was derived from. And I know it's not just, I think with technology, you lose jobs in manufacturing, but we need to make people aware that outsourcing jobs is not good for our children, because we all here have benefited from working in the middle class. We've got and I think a lot of the problems that, and I've said this a number of times when I had the opportunity. So many of the problems that we have in society today, the social programs that are inundated with people that need help. We just had Chris Pinter from Mental Health speak on the need for dollars to help people. Well, if you've had 2 generations of people who have not worked in a middle-class economy the way we did, because I graduated in 71, mid-70s, all the jobs dried up, there were no new jobs, and you not only had technology, but you had businesses outsourcing jobs. So you've got 2 generations of people who have not benefited from working in a middle-class economy, buying a home, raising a family, being a part of the social fabric of the community. And that's why we have problems. Somebody wakes up 50, 60, 50 years old and wakes up and they've got nothing. You know, they're working. And so many, and I know I speak for myself, you didn't have to be, the valedictorian to get a job when you left high school. You could get a job and you could become part of the American dream. That doesn't exist anymore. So that, I'm very happy and proud to be a part of a union. I've been a part of several unions. And that I had the opportunity to work in an environment when I did. I don't know, I would not want to be a kid today, period. They've got it very, very difficult. There's not the opportunity that was there when I grew up. So hopefully by Tom, Mr. Ryder, and Commissioner Ryder and myself making this information available, we can maybe do something to create awareness. I think you have to start with any issue. You have to create awareness and get people discussing that. We need to do more for the kids, the generations coming. There's a number of ways to do that. I'll get into that next week. Thank you.
Stay tuned.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, from the Ways and Means Committee, Commissioner Lutz. Commissioner Lutz, you're up. Okay.
Okay. So, we have Resolution 2017-174, Section 19, Disaster Relief Funding Application for Emergency Management. I move that resolution.
Support. We have motion, support, discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2017-175, Budget Adjustments to the Crime Victims' Rights Grant from the Department of Wages. I move that resolution.
Support. Motion and support. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2017-176, the waiver of adoption fees for the Paws at the Park event for animal control. I move that resolution.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have under Ways and Means.
Thank you. Is there any unfinished business? Any new business? Miscellaneous. We're getting close here. Announcements. Commissioner Begic, no announcements today? No closed session, we have no attorneys.
Motion to adjourn is always in order.
Support. All in favor?
Aye. Take care.